What's up? It's your boy Sean P back again with another edition of Hip Hop Roundtable Reviews. So tonight, we're gonna delve a little bit deeper in this Jadakiss 38 special. I wouldn't call it a beef, but I call it a 38 special and Jadakiss controversy a little bit. But we're gonna take a deeper look at this as now online, there seems to be more banter about New York City MCs versus upstate MCs. You know what I mean? And this is starting to create a conversation or discourse around right now who has the better street MCs, you know? And what we're going to do is we're going to play a video from prominent New York City DJ and influencer Doggy Diamonds, I think his name is Doggy Diamonds. I'm not too familiar with him, but he's quite well known in New York City area, and some of his thoughts about not so much the 38 Special Jadakiss thing, but upstate New York hip hop and it not getting its respect. And I kind of want to have a conversation about this and talk to y'all. Because right now, if we're going to be talking about active MCs who are consistently putting out work, really some of the best street rappers are from that area. I say top 5 street rappers, at least 3 of them are from upstate right now. Arguably 4, you know. And this kind of adds on and kind of opens up more of a discourse about this 38 Special Jadakiss situation. You know, because right now you have Benny the Butcher, Conway, 38 Special. I think they're in the top 5 mix. I mean, me personally, I like Freddie Gibbs. He's in there. And I would say probably Rome Streets is in there. So I kind of want to have a conversation about this and really discuss his comments and then take a deeper look at this, because I've kind of taking another angle with the Jadakiss and 38 Special situation. And I'll talk about it later after we watch the video, because I wonder if this is more, not so much about clout, but it's about respect. And I'll delve deeper in it when we talk. But let's start with the video first, and then let's go to it. So this comes courtesy of Doggy Diamonds. DJ Doggy Diamonds, and to what he says about New York City hip hop versus upstate New York hip hop, the Rochester, Buffalo area MCs. And we're gonna see what he says. We're gonna stop and start, and we're gonna make our comments, and then we're gonna go from there. So let's start.
Was chasing club music. They was chasing strip club music. They got into the drill. They got into everything. But the dudes from upstate kept it boom back. They kept it what it was. And they saved it. They made it cool again to rhyme. It wasn't about no fancy hook. It wasn't about no dance. It was about the beat and the rap. And they saved that while dudes in New York was trying to be cute. And then all the rappers in New York want to be podcasters now. All the dudes who's supposed to be putting out music are podcasters. While the upstate dudes is touring the world off their strength, specifically Rochester and Buffalo. That's it. Rochester and Buffalo. 38 Special. Rochester. One of them ones. The front all you want. He could rap. And he be signing dudes and putting dudes on from the 5 boroughs in Jersey. Why dudes from the 5 boroughs in Jersey ain't helping dudes? Griselda doing their own thing. They see they didn't fall under the 5 borough dudes. They didn't fall under the big 3. They didn't fall under the big 3. Griselda did their own thing to where they all got their own labels, and then they form Voltron when they get back together. So you got Conway, one of the nicest. You got Benny the Butcher, one of the nicest.
As I said, yeah.
You got West Side Gun, who, although people might not like him as much as you like the other two musically, they doing their thing. And they got projects out. I'm not talking about somebody who put out one project or don't put out projects or doing all that. They put out projects. And they wasn't waiting for none of these dudes from the city to co-sign them, while dudes in the city is sitting there with their thumb in their ass, hoping to get a look, hoping to get a picture. Put me on your podcast. They put their own music out. Everybody else in New York was chasing club music. They was chasing strip club music.
Okay. So as you see, there's a lot to talk about there. A lot to talk about, a lot to digest from that. And I think he makes some valid points. He makes some very valid points. But I think it's a little bit of, I would say it's a little bit of a generalization that he's doing. Hold on a minute. I'll just shut it down. I don't want that on there since we looked at it. But see, there's a couple of things I want to look at in this. So let's start off with the first point about New York City hip hop. And I think he's talking about over the last 10 years. Okay. New York City, I would say even before then, I would say at the beginning, since the end of the 2000s, been trying to chase a different sound, okay? And he is right about that. Like, he's right about New York City MCs trying to chase the strip club sound, the turn up, the trap, the Atlanta wave. And now it's drill. It's, even though it's called New York drill, it's more called, it's really a UK sound, you know, that Pop Smoke made. And now you got artists like, you know, Lil TJ, Cash Cobain has put like an R&B spin on it. You know what I mean? And that sound, that's 100% true. That New York City lost its sound. And, you know, as as a result, you know, a lot of the prominent MCs, they moved on. They've kind of taken rap almost as a side hustle now. You know what I mean? One guy you could directly point to that is a guy that I think is one of the best street rappers out, and that's Dave East, who at one point was supposed to be the next up in New York City. And he went to Def Jam, tried to adopt more of a turn up trap sound, do a lot of features with Offset and Gunna and all of that. And he never got mainstream success, you know. But Dave East, which actually he's coming out in 2 weeks, actually 10 days to be exact. It's coming out on 29th. He still keeps that core New York City sound. and the storytelling and all that. But he's kind of like the only one. Him and Joey Badass right now, I think, are the only real flag bearers of traditional New York rap. And they're doing it more on the independent tip now. Dave, I think, was signed to Def Jam for a little bit. I don't know what happened to that. I think that deal is done or whatever. But on the flip side, outside of those two, the real street MCs since 2016, when Griselda came into prominence, Benny the Butcher, Conway the Machine, West Side Gun, and the offshoots of that, the El Caminos of this world, down to Rochester with 38 Special, and now the Trust Movement. And that is true. He did sign Jersey Cats because he signed Jersey in New York. He signed Shay Noir and Ransom, who I think is the best street lyricist. They've had their own movement. And they've had a movement that doesn't need the mainstream. You know what I mean? And it's traditional boom bap. Derringer, Conductor Williams. I mean, it is the 90s boom bap sound. And that's true. So there are no lies in any of those statements. But see, where my pushback is going to come is, even though you had the traditional New York sound, and this is what people don't want to talk about, because you are an independent movement, you fail to have the impact on the mainstream and impact on the culture. I shouldn't say that. They've had impact on the culture, but very minimal to spread the New York boom bap sound or bring back the New York boom bap sound into prominence. You know what I mean? Now, if you want to talk about the vets, like the Fabs of this world, the Jadakiss, Fat Joe, Styles P. I'm not even going Jay-Z and Nas and Busta and New York and the 90s cats. Let's just stay with the 2000s crew. A New York City MCs. Jim Jones, Cameron. Yeah, all of them are podcasters now. But see, what he fails to say is that as good as Benny the Butcher, as good as Rome Streets is, it's another one, which I'm going to get to reviewing his new project, which needs to be talked about. They don't have the impact on the culture like that. And you have to take that into account and give a Jadakiss that respect. They're OGs now. They've got their platinum plaques. They've got their classics. They've got their, Grammy nominations and Grammys and all that. They can retire now. But the upstate movement is cool, but it's cool for a niche audience. They're niche rappers, So as much as he wants to say, well, yeah, they kept that New York sound alive, but are they making the New York sound the main sound, the sound? And are they making records that translate? Are they making records that are timeless and really put an impact on the culture? Yeah, they didn't make the moves of the big three, but they don't have the impact of the big three. So, I mean, that cuts it right down. So it's like, at the same time, you want to say, yeah, they did that, but they're making niche hip hop. And I don't complain about it because that's the rap I want to hear. You know what I mean? But they're all indie, even though indie rap is where it's at. And see, this is where I'm like conflicted. Is like, I really wonder if this whole thing with 38 Special and, begging for Jadakiss for a feature, I wonder if it's more about respect. I wonder if it's more about, look, I get you an OG, but you've been ducking me on a feature. If he was more joking about it, and then got kind of serious as the podcast that he went on about it. If 38 is just begging for respect, and he's crying out that the upstate movement doesn't have its respect. And see, that's where I come back to the impact, because if 38 was being played outside of the New York City tri-state area and just not an underground cat, you know what I mean? Like, maybe he would be on Jadakiss's radar. Now, I don't think that's fair, you know what I mean? But Jadakiss has featured with all of those artists. So, in the end of the day, it's a little bit of a conundrum. It's like, I like what the upstate movement is doing, but the elephant in the room is they're independent underground artists. You know what I mean? They doing what Jadakiss was doing in '94 when they were teenagers. And Jadakiss and Fab and all of them, they did it at the highest level when they had to compete against sounds. They had to compete against a Chicago sound with Kanye West, a down south sound with a Young Jeezy and a Ludacris and a Gucci Mane and a Rick Ross. They had to compete, they competed and won. You know what I mean? So for them to kind of say, well, you know, New York City, you know, we need our respect. You know, they would give you more respect if you had more impactful records. And as much as I love the 38 Special record, I love Plugs I Met, all the Benny records, Conway, what he's doing, they don't have a lot of impact. They're just grimy boom bap hip hop for a niche audience. You know what I mean? Now, he is right though. He's factual on just about, you know, 80% of this. But at the same time, I don't know where he's going with it as to say, oh, well, you know, New York City fell off. You know what I mean? And you better give us our respect because we're the ones upholding the New York sound and y'all ain't giving us that respect. And it's making me rethink this 38 Special thing as to maybe he's just begging for some respect. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I wouldn't ask about it in that way. I wouldn't have not went about it in that way. You know what I mean? I would have pulled somebody aside and said, look, you know, I don't think our sound, I don't think you're respecting what we're doing. You know, we want to do some features with y'all because we want to, you know, expand our sound. And see, another thing too, I don't know, because all of the Griselda crew, they're managed by Rock Nation. So I don't think they're really crying out, you know, for respect. But I think 38 Special, it was more of a cry for respect. And I think he feels disrespected that the work that he's putting in ain't really getting the attention he wants. You know what I mean? He wants more attention. But again, he keeps contradicting himself, saying, I'm independent, I'm not owned by the industry, I could do whatever it is. But it sounds like you crying for respect. And this is what the upstate movement is about right now. You know what I mean? And I kind of think that's where 38 was coming from on this Jadakiss thing. And I still disagree. I think he went about it in the wrong way. I would have not called out Jadakiss or Fat Joe, and even Khaled for that matter. I mean, you went too far, bro. But if you think you're disrespected and you're not getting the respect you want, I think you need to have a sit down on a conversation. You know what I mean? With a Jadakiss, with a Fat Joe. I would even get somebody like a Benny to kind of broker this conversation and just talk it out and say what that really was about. You know what I mean? Because I don't think disrespect gets you anywhere, you know? As far as the New York City sound, you know what? I can't lie. Like, I think Doggy Diamond's got a point. New York City sound is lost right now. I mean, drill to me, I think that movement came and went. I don't think that's going to last or lasted too long. I know a lot of those artists are doing more of a Jersey house sound to some of their raps. That's not going to last too long. I mean, New York City does need to get back to the basics. But the problem is there's nobody in that young wave to carry that sound on, you know? Like the young generation of hip hop stars grew up on Pop Smoke, who unfortunately passed away. And that's how they're trying to rap. Like Joey Badass and Dave East, they're pushing 40 now. You know what I mean? I don't know about Joey Badass because Joey Badass was pretty young when he started, but he's in his 30s, and Joey Badass doesn't have the impact that certain people did. And I think Joey Badass is an example of what he did with Kendrick was kind of what I think 38 Special is kind of doing with Jadakiss now, in a different way though. Like Joey Badass was calling for East Coast respect and New York respect because he saw the West Coast was taking over too much. And he had a nice little battle with some West Coast lyricists on that, you know. But I think that in the end of the day, it's all about respect. But the thing about Joey is, and unfortunately, man, like I hate to say it, you've been in this game for like 10 years and 10 years plus, and you haven't had the big impact. You haven't had the big records. You know what I mean? And even Joey Badass tried to make his attempts at harmonizing and have more of a trap sound and all of that. So he's guilty of the same thing, even though he's begging for respect and wanted to make it about lyrics, you know? But I think it's a fascinating discussion about, one, the downfall of New York City hip hop. And really, if you want to get real gritty, New York City, you know, 90s, early 2000s styles rap, you got to go upstate now, you know? And that's where kind of 38 Special kind of has a point. But at the same time, it's not like Jadakiss and them went away. They just doing other things. Like, I don't think you should downgrade somebody for doing a podcast. All them cats have their money. They have their plaques. They don't need hip hop. Like Jadakiss is in his 50s. Fat Joe's in his 50s. They don't need that shit. You know? So I don't know. It's a deep discussion. It's a deep discussion. It's something we might bring up on our next podcast when a roundtable gets together, when I get Ansem and Reese on here. But I think it's an interesting discussion. Now, I gotta agree with Doggy Diamonds. Like, yeah, this is what's going on. But at the same time, you know, it's not like those guys need to hold it down. I think more the issue is the younger kids under 30. There's no younger kid under 30, at least that I don't know, that's nice with a boom bap sound from New York City. Nobody's trying to carry on the New York City boom bap sound anymore, you know, and that's a problem. And that was a generational issue because of the SoundCloud and the trap era, the future era, the future and Lil Uzi Vert. That's that problem, you know, and most of those kids look up to Pop Smoke. So unfortunately, I don't know for now, boom bap is dead in New York City. You know what I mean? So that's where the upstate cats, they have an angle. But it's like, yo, you need to make that movement more than just a regional and a niche movement. You gotta take that to the next level. And as independent artists, I don't see how you really do that, because you're only going to stream but so much. So I don't know. You tell me. The upstate New York movement, but New York City movement? Has New York City hip hop fell off to that point where they got to go and look at upstate as the ones to kind of lead the way to bring back traditional rap back to New York City? Like, what do y'all think? It's a deep discussion. We probably gonna have to carry this on at another one. But shout out to Doggy Diamond. Shout out to that video. Go check that out. The clip is circulating. It's on. Check out our page. Hip Hop Roundtable presents the review. I posted that, so definitely go check that out and tell me what you think. Is upstate New York carrying the boom bap sound flag right now for New York City? And is New York City, like, when are they going to get that sound back? Who are the younger MCs to carry that boom bap sound on? Because now that I see it, I think 38 Special feels like he's a little bit disrespected, and his wave isn't getting the attention that it really wants. So you tell me. I'll be back with some new content and coming up this weekend. And enjoy the rest of your evening. All right, peace.